Thank you very much, Tatt Si. I'm realizing we have a lot to cover in the time that was given to you, but you did so very creditably. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, without much further ado, let me introduce the other speaker that will be speaking and sharing tonight. Mr. Tatt Si is the newly elected President of the Humanist Society Singapore. We're told the ink is barely dry on the contract or something like that. Yeah, 2 weeks old. He was schooled in science, worked in various multinational corporations dealing with engineering and the industrial sector for over 25 years. So you can kind of guess how old he is, or young he is. Having lived in Canada and China to study and to work, he also travels extensively in the Asia-Pacific region and the world. The last 2 years, he flipped 180 degrees and launched himself into the arts scene, editing 2 National Arts Council NAC-funded Chinese novels, and cast and crew to 2 Media Development Authority MDA-funded feature films. Quite the artist producer here as well. He currently runs a photo studio and a rental house. Tatt Si is a scientist, an artist, but above all that, a humanist. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Tatt Si.
Professor, moderator, Imran, my friend. Dear audience, thank you and good evening. I think I'll probably, I just want a little bit hands-free.
No, that's for recording. I think you have to use this.
Oh, this is for recording?
That's for
recording.
This one will amplify the sound.
Okay. So much for science. It's been a long time. The degree was over 30 years ago. Okay, it still works. That science still works. Okay, I got to thank Imran. When he pitched to me some 3 to 4 months ago when we wanted to do this, he was really the instigator. So I must say this. Okay, when he pitched to me, I read it as religion to atheism, a conversion. And I said yes. Yeah. Sure. Okay, that's a joke. Okay. But quite an orthodox philosopher. Okay, and the moderator introduced me as a scientist, an artist, a humanist. I'm going to start with explaining the atheist in me. And that sounds very confusing, but I think I'm going to clarify that quite a bit. But I don't care if I'm implicit. I don't care if I'm an explicit atheist. Whatever I act is what I am. And with that, the only certitude, okay, that I have tonight, okay, is that I'm going to quote fewer philosophers. Okay? And I'm going to use some examples, some of which are personal. Okay, so that's how I would drive my discussion. Disclaimers. I think you overdid the disclaimer. It's like I have nothing to do with the Humanist Society. Okay? I think a lot of my views that do echo with the Humanist Society members because we are an umbrella group of atheists. From one end, atheists, and some will call it a militant atheist, to agnostics, to free thinkers, to I don't cares, to humanists. Okay? And I think I will explain this as I go along. I'm debating Professor Hoon too. But I would say this, that they have been and they are still religions of multiple gods. Okay? So they have been and they still are. Okay? And that's before the one God of religions that came to the scene. Okay? So I just like to think of atheism as a blank page. Why are people writing on this with permanent ink when we are still in the assumption stage? Okay, so that's my argument for atheism. And atheism, according to definition, I won't use a lot of definition. No, very, very deep, implicit, explicit. Atheism in the atheist.org definition are people who lack a God belief system. Okay? And since God belief system is, tonight I will use that as symbolic of a religion, okay? Means that atheists, in the wide definition, are people who just don't have religions. Doesn't mean that we don't believe in God. We might want to push out the question a little later, or some had already secretly rejected but don't tell you. Okay, maybe that's what you call the rejection, the explicit. Okay, but in atheism, atheist is the lack of theism. But the word atheist has been confused with militant atheists who are very vocal and seem to be saying that I reject God. But if there's no God, why am I so vociferous about rejecting Him? Okay, so that's the argument, and I think there should be addition to the Epicurean number 5 statement, which is, well, if He exists, why doesn't He eliminate evil? This is a one. If He doesn't exist, why am I rejecting Him so fervently? Okay? So that's the atheist position. And I want to also define in this case that since atheism is the lack of belief system, that the religion to me is sort of a belief system, and tonight I'll say of a super being, the one. Okay? Any religion with the one super being, with a set of rules to follow, usually from one book. Okay, so that's what I'll define as religion when I go on. I want to be specific about Buddhism, I want to be specific about the Hinduism and so on, Taoism for that matter. I want to thank the religious people. Okay, they are moral people, absolutely. Sometimes we get asked that question a lot too, whether we're moral people, but we're very open to saying that religious are moral people, just like us, atheists. Okay? And Barry Manilow sings, you feel sad when I'm sad, okay? You feel glad when I'm glad. That's sort of the feeling that I have, okay, between the religious and the non-religious. I'm very grateful for the Jews for giving us very rich culture, for giving us the possible solution that it's a one God world, possible solution. Okay? I'm very thankful for the Christians for recognizing that Zeus and all the gods of Mount Olympia were not real. And indeed they were not.
They're not?
Sorry, Mike, okay? And I want to thank the Muslims, especially for the innovations and for really preserving and returning all these lost knowledge from the earlier days, early philosophers, the ones that some of which you quoted, Aristotle and so on as well, and taking Europe out of the Dark Ages. Okay? I'm very thankful for these people for doing all these things. Okay? And as an artist, on my artist hat now, okay, we love history and we love human conditions. Okay? In fact, most art and art form are capitalized on the human condition, very similar to religion and politics. Religion and politics are about ways to organize society, honestly. Okay? It's control. And art and religion are about despair, hope, and immortality. Okay? Somewhere in there they coincide, they overlap. Okay? And the price to pay for life is death. As simple as that. Why make anything extra out of it? Okay? It is poignant for an artist. Okay? It might be scary, but it's definitely poignant. It's very artistically beautiful. However, artists only give opinions. Okay? Don't trust this for scientific things. So this artist hat will be put down in just a bit. So I'll return to my atheist hat there. I am an atheist. And talking about philosophers, my first one I quote, Dan Dennett, philosophy is about questions that may never have an answer. Okay? But the religion is answers that may never be questioned. Okay? That's a flip side. And I like this, and I usually follow this quite a bit because it tells me whether I'm in a very stubborn mode of not breaking out of it, or I really am very overthinking. From the earliest of time, extending a good life survival makes a religion tribal. Okay? I want to protect my tribe. Okay? My tribe survives, my God survives. And with that, we hear things like we find them wherever they are and we kill them. Okay? And then we have, let's smoke them out. We have what? We have, if you're not with us, you're against us. Okay? Two of these were spoken by George W. Okay? The other one, of course, is from a religious text. And I think you can find the same version in two religious texts. Okay? And tries to win battle, their gods will win, and if they don't win battles, of course the gods will go along with them, they die. Yeah. Okay, so gods also have an evolution process. It is no surprise that the Hebrew Bible, for the first 3 or 4 commandments, if there are no other gods, why is God so adamant about saying, I'm the only one? Forget about the others, okay? Only worship me, okay? And that you shouldn't make graven images, but they'll get around there. You make flat ones. You don't make the statues. And a lot of things that have to do with you take out first 3 of the 10 commandments just to honor yourself. Okay, I don't think that's the right thing. And it's no surprise that we find a lot of objections with that. The stories of the creation and the calamities are copies of each other. Honest. Okay. Gilgamesh epic, a Sumerian story, pre-Babylonian, talked about Noah's Ark. Centuries before even the Jews were talking about them or wrote them down. Okay. We have New Testament resurrection. It's not unique. Okay. I'm not talking about just Lazarus, which came back into life, of course, but the Horus, the Mithra, Krishnas, and so on. They had the stories of being there for 3 days and revived again. So it's not unique. It's picked up from somewhere. I'm not being specific to one religion, so I'm just picking out the ones that are obvious. And the New Testament is about trying to tear down the angry and jealous Old Testament God. Okay, even up to World War II. This is my opinion. Okay, that the Jewish influence on the Christianity was still being watered down. Okay, there was a lot of effort to try to de-Jewish-ify. Okay, my Yiddish is pretty poor. Okay, the Bible. In the Quran, An-Nisa 4:157, it was said that Jesus was but a prophet. Okay, before that, it said a little bit about that, and didn't die on the cross. So one religion is saying of the other, and it was as if, whoever comes up and say that, hey, I'm the purest, I'm the last, and I have the last word, that makes sense. And it's not like the old Hebrew Bible can go back and change the text, or the New Testament and to go back and add the Mark 16-9 to 20. Okay? It's not like they can do that all the time. Okay? So they have conflicts within each other, the one God, the religions. For an atheist, I think it sounds very preachy. Okay? I'm already using some of these texts. I'm using just the specific ones to indicate and illustrate my point. The religious are selling their individual, unique, good news. Okay? I'm selling they are all bad news. And I have no news. And perhaps no news is good news. Yeah? And someone who needs hope and comfort, will they come to us? Not necessarily. Okay? They will go to the religion because they have good news. So that's a very bad marketing strategy to start out with for atheists. These religions, one God religions, they're not homogeneous. Okay? And I feel they should not be considered as a slate. Okay? Because if you don't already have a truth out there, the one true one somewhere, why lump them together as a slate to go against those without? In fact, we should all be questioning, okay? And whether there is none or whether there is one, and which one, before we even try to gang up the religious against the non-religious. So the conclusion is there are many gods. Or that there is only one God. And the other religions except mine are wrong about their God. I will focus mainly on the one God religions, again, going forward, because that is what we're talking about. How many of you have seen pictures of the 10 religious leaders blessing Formula 1 tracks? Okay? MRT trains. Coco One supports that. I don't know why. Okay? So if there's a crash this year in September, F1 track, they blessed it already. If there's a problem, okay, with the MRT train, it's about the people, I can't say crash. If there's a problem with the MRT system, Are we going to get the 11th religious leader? Are we going to get the 12th one to bless the tract next year? Okay, this is ridiculous, okay, in my hat as an atheist. Every time I see this, by the way, I feel sorry for these 10 people. Okay? I feel a little left out, but I feel sorry for them too. Okay? Because we all know that who the real God is. Yeah? The real God is the government. In the name of religious freedom and tolerance. Okay? Get together, come on, 10 of you. Where's that one? Okay, find another replacement. Okay, so the real God is the government. So the premise of all religions is this. Believers are willing to buy into the game rules of heads, he win. Okay? Tails, I lose. Developed during times when the populace was mainly very backwards in thinking and social order was necessary. You need something to control the people. We all know what Seneca said about the smart, the smart, the dumb, and also the politician thinking that the religion is useful. The earliest relief for despair was to assign blame, and it's always easier to blame perhaps the anti-God, and the anti-God will begin to emerge. The human condition needs hope, and the artist in me already said that it's a human condition. We all sort of need this thing, okay? It's the part that science can't answer, where you said the science brings the why, but the religion brings the meaning, correct? But I think sometimes there's some things that really don't have meaning, okay? And when I say that, I usually quote the people who say that, oh, that crash somewhere, there must be a reason to that. Now, my retort to that will always be, now if you want to give me a reason, you give me a support for that reason, but because there's absolutely no reason for some of these disasters happening, except for perhaps it was chance that the Earth crust was moving. So if you want to say a reason, find a proof for that reason. Okay? Otherwise, don't say it at all. John Stewart, okay? Not a philosopher, okay? Religion, it's given hope to people in a world torn by religion. Figure that one out. Religion may be a solution, but it is definitely, maybe a solution, but it's definitely a problem too. Blaise Pascal, I'm quoting someone who used the Pascal wager, of which my predecessor is the world-renowned leader in taking down Pascal wager, Paul Tobin. Man never commits evil so fully and joyful as he when he do it for religious conviction. Okay. Now this is Blaise Pascal, someone who, in my mind, is very Singaporean. Okay, for coming out with the wager. So he's kiasu as you know. Okay. A broken watch tells precise time twice a day. Figure that out. Stops at 12 o'clock. So when it comes to 12 noon and it comes to 12 midnight, it'll tell the time correctly twice in a day. A broken watch. Okay, so think about that. Religion can be right at times, but they're also wrong most of the time, in my opinion. Okay, the concept of an all-good super being and an all-bad devil of evilness is very, very childlike thinking. My children, when they were toddlers, thought that the attractive people were good people, ugly people were bad ones. Okay? And of course, at the same time, when they were toddlers, and I'm 1.85 meters tall, so I'm pretty tall. They looked up to me and they say, and I asked them this before, confirm, Dad, you're the tallest person in the world. Okay. Gradually, when they grew older, Yao Ming, you know, basketball player? Yao Ming. Oh, Dad, you're the second tallest man in the world. Yeah. And gradually, I'm not even top 100 anymore. Okay, and today I don't even ask that question anymore. Okay, and these are people who are in that childlike mindset. Okay, and when they grew older, they also remembered saying that Dad, you're the best dad in the world. Okay, so these are personal examples, the best dad in the world. So I hold that prize up and I say, darn, who else can beat me now? I'm the best dad in the world. Okay. But what they really mean is, of course, I am the best dad to them. Correct? I'm a personal dad. like a personal God. And I like to say that we're mixing up sometimes the grandiose with this hidden false humility. And when people tell me that God bless them, okay, that it's really them who are very, very special. Okay. And when they say that, oh, blessed with these kids that are so beautiful kids, you know what? You had an extra can of beer that night. It's a different set of kids that's going to come out there at the end, and you won't know the difference because you walked another path and not the original. Okay? So don't say that God gave you this. Okay? You would have been happy with anything anyway. Okay? So I know I'm a little over time. I'll wrap up this and then go on to the next session. The humility of submitting to an imaginary friend is indirect way of telling others that you have been chosen. So again, you're special. This is not humility. And I will come back to some of these points, but they're rather theological, omniscient, omnipotent. I don't think I have time to get into them right here. But you subscribe to a book or two books, okay? Quran and Sunnah, or the old Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, and so on. The New Testament is sort of undoes the stuff that the Old Testament or jealousy God did. But for us, we don't adopt something that is not moving. Okay, we adopt science. Okay, and science is a method. Science is self-renewal. We don't even have to say that. Okay, go revise it. There are groups of people who are good at revising those too. And by sticking to something that is always moving, okay, that is always renewing, we know that we will try to get to the truth one day. So I think with that said, I'm throwing out a lot of material. I will begin to morph more into a humanist, okay, in the second part. Okay, morph, okay, and the definition of that, generally, again, not a very hard and fast one, is that we don't believe in superstitions, okay, or supernaturals, and we use reason. We need evidence, okay. We're passionate, we're compassionate, okay. And one thing to the last slide. The last thing to say here is versus the religious people. You must ask the right questions. You should not ask, oh, that Darwin guy said we came from monkeys. That was a wrong question to start out with. So you will never get the right answer. Okay? So we simply are not monkeys. Okay? Man belongs to the species of the hominids, which are apes, okay? Great apes. And humanists are atheists. I know I'm going to get a lot of flags here. Yes, humanists are atheists, because atheists, again, remember I said, are blank pages. Okay, they might have certain attitudes, but they don't have a God. And atheists, by that definition, is lumped together with them. And when I come back, I'll talk more about the humanist side. But I've gone on too long, and thank you for it.